Welcome back, trainers, to Trainer TV. I'm Professor Chris.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are back with another episode of How to Build a Pokemon Deck, Episode 2.
Oh yeah.
This week, we're going to be following up a little bit on what we talked about last week, which is going to be the ratio of cards in decks. We know you guys have been asking the basic questions of how many energy cards should I have in my deck? How many Pokemon should I have in my deck? And how many trainers should I have in my deck? We're going to talk about this a little more in depth today to hopefully get you on your way to building a masterful deck.
Alright guys, as we're filming, it just started raining, so please forgive any rain sound you may hear in the video. It is pan pouring outside.
You might say there is a bit of a drizzle out there.
Drizzle, really? Somebody rain danced.
We're on our game today. Good job.
So Chris, how many energy cards should I have in my Pokemon deck?
In a Pokemon deck, for instance, my starter deck that you guys saw last week has 24 energy cards in it.
24?
24.
Wow.
That means that over 1/3 of my entire deck consists of energy cards. When looking at how many energy cards you should have in your deck, you need to look at the main attacks of your Pokemon. And when you look at that, you'll see you probably only need about twice the amount of your main Pokemon's main attack in your deck.
Okay.
For instance, in a Mega Lucario deck that I play, his main attack requires 3 fighting type energy. So in that type of deck, I will run 6 fighting energy, and maybe some special energy to supplement it along the way.
Nice.
You're mainly going to be using trainer cards and supporter cards, item cards, those kind of things to get your energy rather than just hoping to draw into them by having over 1/3 of your deck consist of energy card. Alright, trainers. So here we have my personal deck, the starter deck that I picked up here, the Froakie starter deck. A great idea for being able to edit your deck is lay everything out just like this. Kind of group all your Pokemon together, group multiples of Pokemon, item cards, trainer cards, etc. So you kind of get a feel for where you're at ratio-wise. If you look down here, you can see that we have 2 nice big stacks of energy cards. Like we said earlier, these have to go. These have to get cut down. We should, we can talk about even taking this whole stack out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6. And then we have all of these other cards that we can fill with trainers, more powerful Pokemon, etc. You just don't need this much in a deck. But in the meantime, I will just set these back for the sake of being able to show you more.
Alright guys, now we're going to save that Pokemon question for last, so that is coming. How many trainer cards should I have in my deck? And how does that compare to a starter deck?
Another great question. In most starter decks, I believe that this one only has about 6 trainer cards total. Something
really?
like that. I think I have 8. I have 4 Pokeballs.
Okay.
And I have 2 Crushing Hammers and 2 Tyrannos. And I think that's about all I have in this deck.
Wow.
Now, trainer cards are going to be used as what's called your deck's engine, meaning trainer cards are going to be what you use to move your cards around in your deck, to search your deck for cards, and power up your Pokemon on the bench, things like that. Trainer cards are going to be what keeps your deck moving. Now, as far as for how many you should have, that kind of plays off of how many Pokemon you wind up having. But pretty much any card that isn't going to be those few energy or a couple Pokemon is going to be filled up with trainers. The reason for this is because if your ratio is way off, just like that of a starter deck, and you have all this energy and no trainers, you're going to run into situations like this at the beginning of each of your turns. That's not going to help you move anything around. You're going to move so slowly, and you're not going to be able to stay up to speed at what your opponent is doing. So you need to change the energy count and get more trainer cards in your deck. Alright, if you want to take a look over here at our trainer cards, we actually have 10 instead of 8. We have the 2 switch cards I forgot about, but that's still not enough trainer cards. If trainers are going to be what you rely on in order to find Pokemon with the Pokeball, get you out of tough situations, to hinder your opponent, and to speed up your own game, you are going to need so much more than these. And not to mention, these types of trainer cards, just about... well, specifically the Pokeball and the Tierno, there are cards very similar to them that do their job, but they do them much better. Like, for instance, in this deck, we may want to take a Dive Ball instead of the Pokeball. It lets you search for a Water-type Pokemon without having to flip a coin, like the Pokeball does. So cards like that, in order to search for Pokemon, in order to draw, there are other supporters such as Professor Sycamore, who lets you get 7 cards instead of the 3 that Tierno gives you. So these are the types of cards that you're going to want to look out for when you are editing your deck. And if you want to take a look more in depth at trainers, we have a video that we came out with a couple weeks ago that is my personal top 10 trainer cards, and I go a little bit more in depth into each of those types of cards there.
Alright guys, now many of you probably have started to make Pokemon decks, either using your starter decks or moving away from starter decks, and you throw in a bunch of Pokemon that may not necessarily work together. For instance, when I'm at League, I do see a lot of players put in Pokemon EXs that don't work well just because they're Pokemon EXs, and they don't even have the energy to use their attacks. So make sure you narrow it down to 1 or 2 types, and that the attacks that you're using on the Pokemon work together. And we will get into this in later episodes as well.
So if you take a look at the Pokemon over here, so you have our main attacker, and this isn't terrible, because we have 4 Froakie, 4 Frogadier, and 2 Greninja. I would say something that this is forgetting is that there are item cards to supplement evolutions like this, such as Rare Candy. Rare Candy lets you go straight from Froakie to Greninja when you evolve him, and in that case you don't have to run so many Frogadier. So cards like that help out a lot. If you want to look over at some of our other Pokemon, so you have the 2 main attackers, you have our Greninja, and then the Steel type, our Bisharp. But then you have these Pokemon over here. We have a Clauncher with no Clawitzer. We have a Panpour with no evolution. We have Honedge with no evolution. Skitty with no evolution. Bidoof with no evolution. And the fact that we have Bidoof in the beginning is a terrible decision. Here we also have our Farfetch'd, which obviously doesn't have an evolution, but it only does up to 30 damage. So all of these Pokemon over here can probably all go away. We need to focus our deck on our main attackers and the main Pokemon in it, and use all of this extra space to fill up with more items and supporter cards.
Alright guys, thank you for watching. If you guys have any more questions, leave a comment in the comment section below, and either myself or Chris will answer those. And actually, both of us will probably answer.
Yes.
Because we love leaving those comments for you guys.
With all that said, we're so grateful that you decided to join us again. We hope that you tune in next week as well. And remember, trainers,
Train on!
Yeah.